The crowded airport buzzed with impatient footsteps, rolling suitcases, and murmured conversations in dozens of tongues. Among the noise stood a young girl no older than 19, her clothes worn thin, her shoes barely holding together, and her eyes carrying the heavy weight of life's struggles. She clutched a small backpack, all that she owned in the world, and tried to keep her head down as if to disappear into the stream of travelers. But life had a cruel way of exposing her, of making her noticeable in all the ways she wished she weren't. A wealthy Arab millionaire, surrounded by assistants and guards, noticed her as she tried to speak with an airline staff member who looked frustrated. The man's expensive watch gleamed as he leaned on his cane, his lips curled in amusement, and with a smirk he asked her, half mocking, half curious, what she was even doing there. Her answer was quiet, almost fragile, yet it carried a force that stopped the air around them. "I speak 9 languages," she said. The group erupted in laughter. 9 languages? From this girl? Impossible. But then, as the millionaire's eyes studied her closely, his laughter froze. Something inside him stirred, a memory buried deep, a truth he couldn't ignore. And in that moment, the story of a poor girl's pain, resilience, and gift began to unfold. Before we dive deeper into this heart-touching journey, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of hidden talents, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to life. Her name was Laila. Born in a small forgotten village, her earliest memories were not of toys or laughter but of survival. Her father passed away when she was only 7, leaving her mother with nothing but debts and despair. Hunger became their closest companion, and nights often passed with nothing more than bread soaked in water. But amidst the suffering, Laila discovered an escape: words. She would listen carefully to the radio her father once owned, picking up unfamiliar sounds, mimicking accents, and repeating phrases over and over until they made sense. Her neighbors mocked her for wasting time, telling her languages wouldn't fill an empty stomach. Yet little did anyone know that each word she learned was laying the foundation of a destiny far greater than their doubts. By the time she was 12, Laila could speak fluent French and English, in addition to her native Arabic. At 14, she had added Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese. And before her 18th birthday, she could hold conversations in Russian, Turkish, and Mandarin. But none of this brilliance was seen, valued, or celebrated. Instead, she was the poor girl with strange hobbies, struggling to keep herself and her ailing mother alive. The few jobs she found paid almost nothing: washing dishes in roadside cafes, sweeping floors, or standing for hours in hot markets selling fruit she could barely afford to buy. Every night she returned home exhausted, whispering new words into the dark, promising her mother that one day, all this pain would mean something. The airport scene was one of desperation. Laila had come not for luxury but for survival. Her mother's health had worsened, and the nearest hospital capable of treating her condition was abroad. Laila had scraped together every coin, borrowed money, and even gone hungry for weeks to buy the cheapest possible ticket. But now, standing at the counter, she was told there was an issue: her documents weren't enough, her booking invalid. She tried to explain, switching languages in hope of finding a sympathetic staff member, but frustration only grew on their faces. That was when the Arab millionaire, Khalid al-Mansour, overheard her. A man known for his sharp tongue, ruthless business empire, and endless wealth, he couldn't resist mocking the sight of a fragile girl daring to stand where she didn't seem to belong. His laugh was cold, his words cutting, until she spoke of her 9 languages. Khalid froze because those words awakened an old wound. He, too, had once been underestimated. As a boy, he had lived in poverty before his family's fortunes changed. People had laughed at his dreams, mocked his accent, and told him he would never rise above his place. Yet here he stood, proof of resilience. And in Laila's trembling voice, he heard the same fire he once carried. He asked her to prove it, expecting to expose her as a liar. But what followed left the hall in stunned silence. Laila spoke to the staff in flawless English, then turned to a French couple nearby and conversed as if she had lived in Paris all her life. She greeted an Italian traveler, then comforted a crying Russian child in his native tongue. Every word was natural, flowing like water. Passengers stopped in their tracks, staff members stared in disbelief, and Khalid's smirk turned into awe. That moment changed everything. Khalid ordered his team to resolve her ticket issue immediately, paying not only for her travel but for her mother's medical treatment abroad. Yet beyond charity, he saw something extraordinary in her. He offered her a position as a translator in his company, giving her a chance to use her gift not for survival but for dignity. Laila hesitated, unsure if she could trust the sudden kindness of a man who had laughed at her only minutes earlier. But her mother, tears streaming down her face when she heard the news, told her, "Allah has answered your prayers, my daughter. Take this chance." From that day, Layla's life began to transform. She traveled for the first time, not as a beggar or outcast, but as someone valued. She sat at conference tables, translating between leaders, businessmen, and diplomats, her presence commanding respect. Each time she spoke, she remembered the nights of hunger, the whispers of neighbors, and her promise to her mother. Slowly, her salary grew, enough to lift her family out of poverty. Her mother received proper treatment, their home repaired, and hope replaced despair. Khalid, once a man hardened by wealth, found himself softened by Layla's humility and strength. In helping her, he rediscovered his own humanity, realizing that true wealth is measured not by riches but by the lives we touch. Years later, people across nations would know Laila not as the poor girl from a forgotten village but as the woman who connected cultures, built bridges of understanding, and proved that even the smallest voice can echo across the world when fueled by resilience. And each time she stood on a stage or in a meeting, she carried the memory of that airport, the laughter that turned into silence, and the millionaire whose frozen smirk became a door to her destiny. If this story touched your heart, please don't leave without giving it a like, sharing it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribing to Kindness Corner. Your engagement helps us keep telling stories that remind the world of compassion, hope, and second chances. And before we end, we have a special request. Comment below. Kindness can change a life, if you believe that even one small act of kindness can transform someone's entire future.